Hello everyone and welcome to my weekly video update. In this video, I'm going to talk about N95 respirators and in particular surgical N95 respirators. Surgical N95 respirators are a subset of the broader N95 respirator category because they are intended to be used in a healthcare setting to provide protection to the healthcare worker and the patients that they serve. So as such, they are considered to be medical devices by the FDA. But they are also subject to regulatory requirements for other N95 respirators. So the regulatory process is not very simple. Now, during the current COVID-19 crisis, we all know there is a shortage of PPE, including surgical N95 respirators. So in this video, I want to highlight some of the key points that you should keep in mind to understand the regulatory approval process for these devices. Now, maybe you are a manufacturer trying to bring a new product to market, or you are helping a client to get these products to market very quickly. This video will help you understand the pathway and some of the resources that you should look up for details. So let's jump right into it and take a look. As I mentioned before, surgical N95 respirators are medical devices, class 2 medical devices for FDA, and the product code is MSH. However, there are two different agencies involved in the approval process. The primary agency is NIOSH through CDC. NIOSH is National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, and the applicable regulation is 42 CFR 84. But for surgical N95 respirators, FDA is also involved through the CDRH, and the regulation is 21 CFR 878 4040. Now, some of these N95 respirators are 510(k) exempt under some conditions, so we'll talk about that. This is a guidance that NIOSH has just published. The reason being that since two agencies are involved, there should be some coordination and streamlining of the process between those two agencies. So NIOSH remains the primary agency, and this guidance provides the pathway for approval and some tips and guidance. So this is a very good resource, and I'll give you this link which is at the top left with this video. So I encourage you to take a look at it, and I'll highlight some of the key points from this guidance, which I should mention came out as a result of a memorandum of understanding between these two agencies. So it's a good news that the process is now being streamlined. So here's an overall process. And the key decision point for NIOSH is to evaluate if a particular device exceeds the threshold evaluation criteria. And we'll talk about that in this video. If it does not, then it goes through the NIOSH process right here. If it does, then the FDA has to evaluate that particular device as a new 510(k) submission. That's a critical difference to understand. So what is some of the NIOSH guidance for these devices? They should meet all NIOSH requirements per 42 CFR 84. They must not exceed the threshold evaluation criteria that I just talked about. In addition, they need to meet the requirements for flammability, fluid resistance, and biocompatibility according to standardized testing, and those tests are mentioned in this particular guidance. They should have sufficiently similar design to FDA cleared products. For example, they should not have a new exhalation valve or a new mechanism to hold the mask or the respirator to the nose and mouth. It should be sufficiently similar, no new materials of construction. So if it is similar to already existing devices, this process becomes very smooth. And the labeling should inform users that the product is not made with natural latex rubber. Okay, so now let's look into some of the threshold evaluation criteria. There are basically two. The intended use, if it includes specific diseases such as COVID-19, or if it includes specifically viral bacterial filtration, antimicrobial protection, hypoallergenicity, or smoke or plume filtration, those intended uses now exceed the threshold evaluation criteria. That means FDA has to now evaluate this product as a medical device and look at the data to see if they can support these new claims or not. And second, if the technologies include antimicrobial coatings, other performance modification coatings, drug delivery materials, nanomaterials or nanoscale technologies, or combination with other FDA regulated products, even sterility claims, that makes it as a new device that the FDA needs to now evaluate. And it cannot go through the regular process through NIOSH. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, FDA will coordinate with NIOSH to exchange information and data because it needs to meet all the requirements, but FDA becomes the lead agency. All right, so there are 4 possible scenarios. You already have NIOSH approval and you also have FDA 510(k) clearance. So no further action is needed now. You continue to pay the maintenance fee. You continue to maintain your FDA registration and meet the post-market requirements, you're good. But if you have prior NIOSH approval as N95, but now you need a surgical label, then you must follow this guidance. You generate and submit additional data about flammability, fluid barrier, and biocompatibility, and use a new model part number to distinguish it from an existing N95 certification. You have prior NIOSH approval, but you do not need surgical label. Then current NIOSH approval is effective and no further action is needed. Or you have a new surgical N95 approval required. In that case, you must follow this guidance, obtain a 3-character manufacturer code, and complete the standard application procedure. So these are the 4 scenarios that they have outlined in this guidance, and there are further details, so you should look that up. Now, here's a list of surgical N95 respirators already approved. You can go to this CDC NIOSH page and take a look. I will provide this link as part of this video as well. So as you can see, the approval process is not simple. It can be simpler if the design is sufficiently similar to already FDA cleared devices, no new materials of construction, works and operates in a similar way. It meets the approval criteria from NIOSH. But I should also mention that in addition to the performance criteria, NIOSH also looks at your quality management system. So you need to be able to meet both. Now, there is an estimate that NIOSH will take about 90 days to evaluate your application, but it may be longer. It may take longer for them to evaluate your quality management system. They will do kind of an audit, and you might have some follow-up actions to fix those findings, and that may take a little bit longer. So if your quality management system is robust, if your product meets the performance approval criteria, then the process can be pretty simple. But there are nuances to it, and there are some details to it. If you want to make new claims, then it'll have to be a new 510(k) with the FDA. And then the process might take a little bit longer, depending upon your quality management system and the data that the FDA will require to support those claims. So I hope this is useful to you. Let me know what you think. If you have further questions or comments or thoughts that you want to discuss, just send me a note. Write me an email or follow me on LinkedIn, send me a comment from there, and I'll be very happy to answer those questions as soon as I can. If you are a YouTube subscriber for my channel, then you can drop a comment right there in my video. And again, I'll be very happy to answer as soon as possible. So I want to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind, any new topics you want me to look into and research. I want to thank you for your interest and attention, and I hope all of you are staying safe during this COVID-19 crisis.